All right, everybody, my name is Nick Antaki from Vets Indexes. Pleasure to have you all here today. Thank you so much for being here in person and for those joining us virtually. It's now my great honor to introduce Meg Hendrix from Fiserv, who's going to be moderating this great panel on veterans leading the way as ideal entrepreneurs. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Nick. Hey guys, Meg Hendrix. I head up military and veteran affairs for Fiserv, and that is Fiserv, not Pfizer. So you can talk to John about, vaccines and stuff, but for me, it's a payment processing and that kind of thing. So I'm an Army veteran, and I'm married to an Army veteran, and excited to be here with all of you guys today. I've been working in this space since about 2015. It was my second job out of the military, so my second job in the civilian world. And excited to be here with these awesome folks. I work a lot in the entrepreneurship space, so we're excited to talk about that today. So I'm going to give each of them an opportunity to do a short little intro, and then we'll get into questions. And if you guys do have questions about entrepreneurship, these are the folks to ask. So think about that. So over to you, Misty.
Cool. So Misty Stutzman-Fox. I'm the Director of Entrepreneurship and Small Business at the Daniello Institute for Veterans and Military Families at Syracuse University. Absurd title, fully aware. But I run 11 national and international programs that help entrepreneurs go from ideation startup to growth. So if you're thinking about entrepreneurship, or if you run a $24 million business, I got a program for that. More specifically, for the employers in the room, we have the Coalition of Veteran-Owned Business, which is a coalition of Fortune 500 companies and more. Now we've actually expanded that quite a bit, that have said we want to do better by military-connected businesses, and we want them in our supply chains. And how can we do so? So through that group, it's a free to join. We've actually made 18,000 connections between potential suppliers and supplier diversity or buyers at companies. So the Walmarts, the Disneys, the Pfizers, the Johnson & Johnsons of the world as well. So if you want to talk about any of our other 4 pillars, we have an amazing onward opportunity team here with Mike Shinnick and Mike Bianchi. We also have our research team and America Serves, which are our other pillars, but I'll pass it over.
Thanks, Missy. Hi, guys. My name is Stephanie Adel Zuniga. I'm the owner of ACJ Luxury Maintenance. We provide facility maintenance services to the federal government and local municipalities. We have been in business. We are like a COVID baby business. So we started at the height of COVID, and we're located between New York and New Jersey. We serve the East Coast.
That was great.
Thank you, Chris.
Chris Stanbach. I live in Syracuse, New York. Started a small lawn care company in 2010 when I returned home from Iraq. Since then, we've grown year over year. We now have 45 team members. We work with about 32 subcontractors. Last year, we made Inc. 5000, ranked number 1,700, I think. Just got ranked number 44 in the Northeast, fastest growing companies. We're blessed. Love what we do. We're now getting into construction. That's taking off, the new division. And I got 4 crazy boys at home, and I married my high school sweetheart, Marine Corps. All right.
All right. So, okay, so this question's for the whole group. We have seen through the research that IVMF has done, that veteran-owned businesses tend to be more successful once they get off the ground than non-veteran-owned businesses. So what are there any specific skills that you think, for you guys specifically, you can say what you gained personally, but also Misty, are there specific skills that you've seen that help contribute to that success that people have from the military?
So I can talk the quantitative, and then y'all can go into the qualitative about that. There absolutely is research that shows that veterans they have the resilience to start a business, right? When you're in the military, it's not like someone comes up to you and says, here's a problem, and here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you all the money, the people, and the time you need to get it done. That's never happened, right? So if you take that and say, what makes a good entrepreneur? It's someone that can take those constrained resources and make a solution. And that is exactly why the military does outperform the civilians every time in business. Their survival rates are higher. They will earn more than their civilian counterparts. And that's a huge thing for, again, as we're talking to companies here, as you look into your supplier diversity and who you want to work with, veteran-owned businesses are a good bet. On top of that, veteran-owned businesses are more diverse than their civilian counterparts. So it also has that going for them as well. But you do look at the research, and the veterans often say that the military prepared them for entrepreneurship. And it is that resilience and that teamwork and that leadership that has prepared them for entrepreneurship.
Absolutely, Misty. And just like to piggyback off of that, like literally, I was about to say the same thing. Thanks, Misty.
Sorry.
No, but from being in the military, I'm an Army veteran. And I would say one of the things, I would say, you know, one of the things is our ability to be able to really work under pressure. And I say that because, as I stated before, our business was birthed during COVID. That's like one of my later businesses. Like I've been an entrepreneur now for over 15 years now. So this new business venture was birthed during COVID. And I would say I incorporated on March 13th. And like after that, everything shut down, every single thing. But then I got the call from Chris. He needed someone to be able to work at the Department of Veterans Affairs, the VA hospitals. And we were covering 3 hospitals at the time. They needed housekeepers to be able to come terminally clean the COVID rooms. And, you know, between April 3rd, we got that contract, right? So between April 3rd and April 7th, from the time that we started, which was April 7th, I had to find 50 workers between that time, right? And, you know, most employees are trying to stay home. They're like, So I had to make phone calls. I had to reach out to different counterparts, but I found those 50 workers. And it's the military that really prepared me to be able to get out there and have that confidence, but also be very strategic in what I'm doing and making sure that I am creating a comfortable environment in something that is not that comfortable. You know, so to be able to persuade workers to say, hey, we're going into the hospitals, we're going to clean rooms where people are terminally ill is not an easy task. But with that task and with explaining to the workers and being very transparent, they were able to trust me and they did come into work. So we were able to service 3 hospitals during the time of COVID.
What's the question? It's really hot in here. Is anybody else hot? Oh my God.
What skills did you get in the military?
Yeah, what
that
skills
helped your
did you?
business?
How many veterans are there in here? Military. Okay. How many people want to start a business? Yeah. You already own one? Okay. Looking to grow it? So I'm going to tell you guys, it's the hardest thing I ever did in my entire life. Okay. I don't want to just sprinkle this with rainbows. It's the hardest thing hardest thing I've ever done. Probably the hardest thing you'll ever do. There's sacrifices you're going to have to make, birthday parties you may miss. Finding that balance with your family and your business is something that in the past 2 years I've really focused more on and tried to master, which I don't think you ever can. But what are the things I learned in the military that helped me in my company? Managing my time. That's one of the biggest things. Another one of the large things is mission accomplishment. In the military, they give you a few tools and say, hey, here's the task, here's a few tools, go accomplish that. Don't come back unless you do. Failure is not an option. And so when you have that mentality that you're taught in the military and you apply it to your business, you can be unstoppable. But again, it's that balance, you know. You don't want to put your family on the back burner and neglect them just for the sake of your company. So I would say if you're looking at starting a company, do that. Get a mentor right away. And again, it's going to be one of the hardest things you'll ever do. So if you're serious about it, you're going to have to cut out those negative people in your life, I would say. Also, the people that suck air out of your balloon, that sort of thing, so you can buckle down and really focus on it. That's what I would say.
I would also say we're going to constantly kind of plug IVMF and the CVOB because these two have benefited from that, and they'll talk about that. They got connected because of the CVOB and IVMF. So if you are a business owner or want to be a business owner, I would 100% tell you to join and be a member because, you know, companies like Fiserv ask them for lists all the time. Like, hey, we want to do something in New York. We want to do something in Atlanta. We want to do something here, there. And they will be like, here's the list that we know of veteran-owned, military spouse-owned businesses. in that area. So, for us, like during COVID, it was, hey, we want to give grants in these locations, or we want to do, buy things from these types of businesses. So I'll give another shameless plug there.
But to build on that too for a second, all those qualities that these folks just talked about, veterans also bring as employees, right? So an entrepreneur is an amazing thing. You start a business, you grow a business, you help continue your service by employing others and serving in your community, right? Entrepreneurship, so entrepreneurship within a company, is also something that veterans and military connected individuals are very able to do. So if you're looking at new initiatives and how can we build this out in a company, how can we help build our ERG, how can we do these things, your veteran counterparts, your military connected counterparts are the folks that can get in and get it done too. So it's not just a small business thing, it's also an entrepreneurship thing as well.
Well, and as we saw, a lot of people in the room are veterans. So, and the panel just before us talked a lot about like ERGs and BRGs and that kind of thing. So, there are, if you don't, maybe you're here and like trying to be like, hey, how do I convince my company that we need to have a military program or like hiring program or things like that? I mean, I always say just ask for help from other companies that are doing it. We have a training program internally. Mm-hmm. There are lots of companies that do. So, hey, be like, hey, Meg, can I get your deck or at least the agenda items that you have for your training for how you train your hiring managers and key stakeholders? And I'll probably say yes. So I will say yes. But like, it's about asking. That's what we talk about a lot. Also, whenever I'm talking to folks who are transitioning out of the military, is say, hey, whether you're introverted, extroverted, it's about the network that you make. Reach out to people on LinkedIn, be like, hey, I was in the Army for me. No, just kidding. Any military service. And just be like, I'm transitioning out. I'd love to have an informational interview or things like that. So just ask. There's no harm in asking. But Misty, I'm going to go to you because a lot of people don't know this, because Misty is very gregarious and she gets up there and she MCs things and does all these programming, but she also loves the numbers.
Yeah.
So can you talk to us about those and the current state of veteran-owned business and kind of what you see as the future now that hypothetically we're coming out of like the pandemic and that kind of thing?
Are we? So over now, half of veterans, or at 64% of folks that are transitioning out of the military, want to start a business. And then that half say that entrepreneurship helped them with their transition. And I think what's really interesting about military connected entrepreneurs specifically is if you look at the top 5 reasons for folks starting businesses, they're mostly the same, whether you're a civilian or you're in the military, right? I want to be able to work for myself. I want to create my own path. I want to, not work for the man or whoever. Military connected individuals are the only group that say, I want to help other, period. And it's in their top 5 reasons to start. There's no other group that puts that there. And I think that's extremely interesting. And actually, half of military connected businesses identify as social entrepreneurs. So those that are helping their communities with their business. And so as you look at that, you can start to see what that motivation is. And as you start to say that entrepreneurship helped with that transition, because quite frankly, we all know how tough that can be as well. From there, as you start to look at COVID, these companies said 64% of them, they did lose business over COVID. That's real. And I think that there are some things that businesses can do as we talk about the coalition, but also as you talk about small things, your corporate gifting, your catering, those things that veteran-owned businesses can help with as well. But 87% of businesses during COVID that are military connected said that their military career helped them prepare and manage the issues that they faced because of COVID. 87%. And I think that right there, as you start to look at the resiliency of small business, as you start to look at who you can depend on and who you can go to, it's that group of individuals. So as we start to come out of this COVID situation, you have to look at what these top challenges are. It's still capital. I mean, the 3 most important things to starting a business via all research is social capital, who you know, right? Human capital, who you can hire, and money capital. While I know that there's been a lot of work that's been done around it, we've actually seen a drop in people saying that capital access is an issue for them. I think there's also a capital readiness problem. So how can you get ready for capital? Because if you're ready, you can access, period. And so I think that that's a big thing too. But I do sit there and say that there's a lot that has to be done for the social capital. And I think over the last 2 years, it's been extremely difficult to network, right? Mm-hmm. How many times are we going to hear, and I don't know if it's like the Happy New Year thing where we can't say it after a certain amount of time, but like, how often are you going to hear the like, doesn't it feel good to be back in person? I think we're going to say it for like the next year, right? And I don't know when that expires, but that's how business gets done, right? We all joke, business gets done on the golf course, business gets done at conferences, business gets done at those connections. And we quite frankly haven't had that. It is hard to network on Zoom. Yes. That natural connection. I mean, like Zoom happy hours were a thing at the beginning, and then we were like, this is not a thing. Why are we making this a thing, right? So I think we're now trying to say, how can we bring that connection back? And I would encourage corporations that can to get in person too, to be around these businesses. That is the biggest thing that I've seen at conferences right now, is that if I throw a conference, the veterans will show up. I'm not kidding. I've sold out 3 since October. And I'm busting at the seams at my next one. They will show up, but you need to show up too, because they're looking to do business with you. They're looking to do get the resources as well. So now we're all here, and that's great. But I would say continue to show up. That's the biggest thing that we can do.
Yeah. And to build on that, so Chris, what did you have to do to shift like during the pandemic, and like how is that kind of adjusted how you're approaching your business going forward as well?
I took out a cleaver, and we got really lean really quick. So we cut the overhead big time. I at one point put my car up for sale. I was nervous, you know. I thought we were going to go under. I was working. I was sleeping in my office. I mean, for a point of it, seeing, you know, because when COVID hit, the contracting officers at the VA, and what I've noticed with the Army, a lot of them started working from home immediately. And so everything came to a screeching halt. So the bids that we were planning on having come out, they didn't come out to bid. So when you have an anticipation of this workload, it's getting ready to fall and it doesn't, you have to, number one, we cut our overhead. And number two, we were just looking for anything to bid on. And then the New York City janitorial COVID-19 emergency contract came out. We were sole source because we have a really good reputation with the federal government. We're a service-disabled veteran-owned small business, if I didn't say that yet. We have a really good reputation with the feds in New York, so they reached out to us, and we negotiated the contract, which was that kept the heartbeat going, which was a godsend. But we were grinding hard, just, you know, very lean. Yeah. That's what we did. And we were asked by the VA hospital to supply them PPE, which, and I kind of was scratching my head. I say, I mow your lawn. I don't know anything about 3-ply masks and KN95, but I've heard really quick KN95 and how many layers. And we were selling all sorts of PPE to the VAs because they needed help. That helped too. We put a modest, you know, markup on it. We weren't price gouging or anything, which they really appreciated. So that was a win-win. Partnering, teaming with the companies, going after projects that we normally wouldn't have. But now we're really starting to see the success from all that hard work there. So that's another tip I'll give you guys. You're starting your company. Don't look for that instant success. Okay, yeah, there'll be some small victories and celebrate them. But always play, and this is what my dad taught me as a kid, always play the long game, okay? Always play that long game and keep that in mind. Don't look for that instant, I want to be a success overnight. I've never seen that unless you're playing the lottery maybe. But other than that, play that long game. And now all that hard work we did during COVID, you know, sleeping in the office and all that, we now in the last 30 days won $15 million in contracts. On the way, when I'm walking over here today, we got a $1 million contract at the Manhattan VA, remodeling an MRI suite. And I don't say that in a braggadocious way at all. I'm just saying that you work hard, it eventually pays off. Might not be tomorrow, might be in 10 years.
I think that's a good point. We had recently retired Colonel Virginia Hartman come speak, and she was part of the group who helped bring women into the Air Force Academy and like integrate them at the Air Force Academy. So it was a really cool like fireside chat that we did. But one thing that she said is like, she said yes to like everything. Now, I don't necessarily say that that's a good thing, but what I would say, it worked out for her. She went and worked at like the Pentagon. She had like a really great career. But what I would say is like, to your point, like, don't discount anything like straight out front. I think that's probably part of what you learned during COVID is like, hey, I may have not gone for this contract or that kind of thing before, but let's think about it and like maybe give it a chance. Now, Stephanie, so you talked about this a little bit, like you planned to launch your company pre-COVID. We actually went to FedEdge and everyone was kind of like, Misty was up there being like, wash your hands, you know, do the elbow tap, that kind of thing. And then, you know, you launched and then COVID happened. So like, what kind of, you talked about it a little bit, but like what changed about how you approached your business from, you know, your plans to launch it, and then now 2 years later, what has kind of changed with your business?
Wow. I would say there's a lot that has changed, but in the beginning, when I did launch and I had to call in these employees to come and work within the hospital, I had to be very transparent. So one of the things that I do with my employees is I am a very transparent employer. And I let them know the state of our contract. I let them know how what they're doing is valuable. And because I let them know that, they were more loyal to me during this contract. I did not lose a lot of workers. I would say as well, knock on wood, you know, none of my workers got COVID during the time, which I was really, really scared about because of the fact that they were cleaning those rooms, right? But yeah, I was very transparent with them. I ensured that they knew what was going on, and I made sure to empathize with what was going on with them. I hosted a lot of, I gave them a lot of free food. Everybody loves to eat. So I gave a lot of free food, and I also made sure to just implement as many changes as possible. Now, up till now, I just got a new contract with the FAA as well. So I would say that now it's sort of the same thing with the janitorial, but they have a little bit more autonomy with this one because I don't have to be there as much. I don't have to oversee many things. So, you know, I'm just ensuring to make sure that they're okay.
Awesome. All right. I did not bring anything up here to like check time, so someone can wave me down when we have like 10 minutes left. But so all of us have seen, you know, fellow entrepreneurs who have been successful and those that have not. So Misty, we'll start with you. Like, what do you think is something that you've seen as a key indicator that someone's like on the right track towards success?
So I think we've heard it a lot today. You know, John Perez said it, you just said it too. There's that transparency part about it, because I think if you're a transparent person, you know what you don't know, right? You really kind of realize this is where I'm lacking, this is where I need to step up. I think the other key part is, and it's something, again, that you learned very well being military connected, it's rely on the team. If you are the smartest person in your circle, you have a problem. You should not be the smartest person in your circle, period. It doesn't go well. You should surround yourselves with people that are complementary to your skills, right? That what you lack, they bring. And I think when you can sit there and say, I've done that, and I've put together a great team or a great network of humans that fill in those gaps for me, then you'll be on your right place. The other thing when I say, you know, if I look at a business owner and say, do I think they're on the right path is, did they go to their mom and say, I have a great business idea? And their mom was like, of course you do, sweetie. And then they went with it. Or did they go and talk to 200 other customers and talk about the issues that they had and how this person can specifically fix that issue? Now, Chris came up here and said, I can do it all. And that's a different entrepreneurial mindset, especially in government contracting. But the whole idea is you still deliver with excellence and you do that thing very, very well. But you didn't start out doing it all either. You have to build that ability to be flexible, to be agile, and then you will. So if I look back at it, surround yourselves with good people, always be transparent, and that can go into the corporate world as well, because that is something that will also help your employees as employers. And quite frankly, we're all having hiring issues, right? So that's the number one thing that over COVID, 50% of veteran-owned businesses were like, we can't hire either. We feel you, corporations. So that's a whole thing too. But then also just make sure that whatever you're delivering on, you're delivering with excellence and focus.
Any other key indicators that you guys have seen for fellow entrepreneurs for success?
I would say one of the biggest things for me is developing your exit strategy. I think that a lot of entrepreneurs overlook that because they're so focused on, I got to get this business going, got to make sure it's growing. But when you have your exit strategy and you have it first, then you really know how to develop your business, because you know whether you want to build your business to sell, to be able to sell, or do you want a big business? Do you want it to be nationally? Do you want a lifestyle business where you're making maybe like, $400,000 or $500,000 a year? Some people are fine with that and you're comfortable. So when you have your exit strategy, you'll be able to really know exactly how you want to build your business. And once you figure that part out, it's a good thing. So that's a really big key indicator for me.
I would say reach out to your competition, invite them out for lunch, introduce yourself. Some people might say, why would you say that? I've done so much business with my competition that because they're getting out of that sector of business, or they're handing it down to their son or daughter and they're not interested anymore. 4 years ago, I reached out to my competition in Long Island, and we ended up partnering with them and won a $7.6 million raise and realigning of the headstones, Long Island National Cemetery. They were my competition. So you never know. It doesn't hurt to have a conversation. Again, play the long game, and relationships are so important. I think, and in my experience, you get to know somebody before you pitch them your product or service. To see if there's a connection there, see if there's a relationship there, right? Don't be fake, don't be phony. And I would say that humility is a great attribute. I think that we tend to go on in life and there's that constant jousting a little bit back and forth, but it's refreshing to me when you don't have to do that with somebody, when you can just have some humility and talk real and get to know them. I think that also helps the relationship grow stronger and quicker.
Do we have any questions? We can move to questions from the audience if we have any questions. Okay. We'll start with, okay, so what do you think corporations can do for small business?
I have a whole list. I mean, first and foremost, support them, right? Look at your supplier diversity initiatives, and if you're not supporting veteran-owned small businesses, there needs to be a conversation there. Because like I said, by way of supporting veteran-owned businesses, you're also supporting diverse-owned businesses. And so I think that's a big thing. Now, I'm not saying go over and try to figure out how to, blow up your supplier diversity overnight and try to fix it, which could be a fun thing, but you could also start smaller too. I think the one thing that I heard a lot of companies do that really took hold was, let's look at our smaller purchases that we can. Let's look at our swag that we're ordering. Let's look at our catering that we're doing. Let's look at our lawn maintenance that we're doing. Back in the beginning, La Quinta was talking about, at the very least, they wanted every single one of their facility maintenance and lawn folks to be veteran-owned businesses. And then it was actually by way of, I think, USAA and then Fiserv and then a bunch of other companies said, we know that access to capital is an issue for small businesses, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to pay them faster. Anything under $5 million, I can get you paid in 30 days. That's huge for a small business. That cash flow is king for a small business. It can make or break a small business. And as a company, when you are small business friendly, it helps encourage that, your relationship with the small businesses, and quite frankly, how you are perceived by those small businesses. I think the other thing is encourage those VSOs that you're working with to work together. There is no reason to reinvent the wheel. We have 40,000 VSOs. Do not encourage a VSO to start something new. Stop it. Make sure that they're at their first best use, and they're doing that with excellence. And if they can't do it, but they have something that another VSO can do, or they can partner, encourage that network right there. So that connectivity, so that we can also help those veteran businesses grow as well. Another item is, a lot of y'all might be sitting there going like, there's no way I'm ever starting a small business. Chris said it was hard and I don't want to, but you have an innate ability in something that you do in your corporation, whether you're a marketing person or you're an HR person or something that a small business can learn from. You can mentor a small business. You can take your ERG, go to a conference, go to a bunker event, come to an edge event, and say, what can we do? Can we sit at the table and talk to them? Can I sit there and kind of demystify this HR process? Can I look at our employee handbook and give that to a small business and say, don't spend time making this, we can do that, right? That way they're not using their already constrained resources to do something duplicative that you already have in a company. It's a huge way that you can support small businesses as well. And then, of course, I mean, if you want to help sponsor events so they can come together and network, like, I'm not going to say no. So there's always that opportunity out there as well. But that's obviously, again, a lot of y'all might be sitting here going, I'm thinking about employing veterans, but veteran small businesses can be an employee of your company.
Whether you hire 10,000 veterans or help 10,000 veterans start a business, the end goal is still,
you get it the same. And frankly, it was said on the first panel, are you a big business person or a small business person? Half of veterans are going to be a small business person. So you got half and half. So again, by supporting small businesses, you're still hiring veterans.
Stephanie?
I think Misty covered everything. Who comes after that? I don't have much to add to that. Do you, Chris?
No. Oh, the reason why I'm wearing jeans, let me just say, I was at the Hilton at breakfast this morning. This little 4-year-old boy trips over his backpack and spills chocolate milk on me. And then he looks up at me, and I think in my head, before he says anything, that he's going to say, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. He looks up at me and says, I have trains in my bedroom. I was like, something my kid would say. No thank you, no anything. And he just ran off. So I apologize for wearing jeans. Yeah. And the security man at the front door made sure to let me know jeans are not allowed.
We're making the exception for you today. Okay. Well, I don't know if anyone has any other questions, so I'll keep one last look. So, okay. So what is one thing that you would like this audience to know, like one piece of advice or like a resource or something like that that you'd like to leave with them today? So we'll have each of you do that. And then
I think you should go to ivmf.syracuse.edu. As I mentioned, it's not just small business, but I saw it on someone had their portfolio open. IVMF actually turns out a bunch of research as well. So if you haven't looked at it, we have a phenomenal site that is actually aggregated by subject matter. So if you're looking at spouse portability, or if you're looking at employment issues, or if you want to read up on what's going on with small businesses and what your company can do, or if you want to join the Coalition for Veteran-Owned Business, again, for free, you can do all of that on that website. You can also see, to date, the IVMF has served over 176,000 military-connected individuals through our programming at the rate of about 25,000 a year at this point. And then, I'd also say, if there's one thing that I'd also leave you with, we also have an amazing Onward Opportunity team here. If y'all are not working with Onward Opportunity, I'm probably going to butcher this description a little bit, but they can help veterans get into over 50 in-demand career tracks, right? So the PMP that someone mentioned earlier, you can get that through IVMF for free if you're military connected. So it's an amazing, amazing resource for you as employers as well to be able to get connected to that amazing talent pipeline for your employers or your employees or your future employees as well. But it's all found at ivmf.syracuse.edu. And I would check it all out and see how you can really leverage what has been built up in Syracuse, but now across the country to help your company grow faster and go further.
For me, for those that are in the room that want to become an entrepreneur, I say surround yourself with those that you strive to be like, right? And that is why I am a product of IVMF, right? I've been with them since 2014. That's my first business. And then I wouldn't say I grew up there. That's how I feel. And I'm also part of the Goldman Sachs Small Business 10K program. So, it's just different levels and making sure that you're networking the correct way, networking with the right people, and not just sitting here talking to each other and not following up afterwards. The money's in the follow-up, but a lot of people forget to follow up. So just making sure that you utilize the tools that you have in the right way, but surround yourself around those that you strive to be like.
I didn't mean to sound gloom and doom in the beginning and say, I want to go back to that for a second, because it is the hardest thing you may ever do in your life, but it's also the most gratifying, We're able to donate the Boy Scouts, Vera House. I don't know if they have Vera House here.
Yeah.
They do. You have Vera House, Building Men program, inner city youth. A lot of these boys, single parents, we're able to give so much. And I wouldn't be able to give as much and I'm not putting anybody down or speaking negatively, but if I were working for somebody owning a company, you're able to go ahead and share those profits and give them back and pump them into your community. So it's very fulfilling. My 4 boys, Gavin, Owen, Lincoln, Finnegan, 11, 7, 6, and 11, 7, 6, and 4. Yeah, that's right. I'm able to go ahead and bring them to work, and they're operating heavy equipment and meeting people, and I'm building leaders inside of my own household, okay, which is worth more than any amount of money in the world to me. But yes, it is the hardest thing you may ever do in your entire life, but also the most gratifying thing you'll ever do in your entire life. I want to say this to you. Some people have a victim mentality. If you're thinking about owning a company, starting a company, growing a company, you got to get rid, if you have it, that victim mentality and, oh, look what happened to me and the world is, conspiring against me. You're in charge of your own destiny. I'll say this. In grade school, we had to get a hall pass to go to the bathroom, right? So when you first start that company, for me at least, I thought in my head that I had to ask permission for everything I did with my company. And shortly after, about a year in, I talked to the CEO of Med Assets, John Bardis, great man. And he said, Chris, you're back from war. You just completed the biggest fight of your life. He goes, it's time, to have some fun with your company. Sent me off. And that's when we really started to grow. For permission when you have a company. Go out, have fun with it, and do good. That's it.
Awesome. Well, thanks, guys. I really enjoyed chatting with you all, as I always do, and hope you guys learned a little bit and have a little bit of insight. I hope that I see some new members joining the CVOB, especially the ones who raised their hands and said that they have businesses or want to have businesses. But thank you all. Looking forward to the rest of the conference.
Thank you.